I have to be honest with you, our next guest story has been a challenge for my team to produce. That's because his journey and comedy are not daytime friendly. He's made a career with admittedly attention-seeking stunts like making himself shark bait, snorting wasabi, and even tightrope walking over an alligator pit. That's what he does for a living. He was paid for it, and well. I'm talking about the one and only Stevo. He is one of the breakout stars of the hit MTV show and film series Jackass. And to be clear, you should not attempt any of the stunts that he does today, if he does any, or any of the ones that he does for that matter. But for over 20 years, Stevo's built a massive cult following. I watched his career from afar over all of those years, his skateboarding, his behavior, his reckless pranks, you might say. But another thing as a journalist that always intrigued me about him was this other side of his life. Because now at almost 50 years old, Stevo says he never thought he would be alive today. Not because of all of that stunt and all that, but because of his excessive drinking and his years of abuse of drugs. Take a look. While he calls himself a professional idiot, Stevo has built an impressive career by Hollywood standards. He's had 4 #1 box office hits. His Jackass franchise has grossed over $400 million worldwide. Stevo says if people were shocked and disgusted by his debauchery on camera, his drinking and drug abuse behind the scenes was even worse.
Hi. Make any sense? Of course I'm making perfect sense.
In 2008, fearing for his life, Stevo's co-star staged an intervention that ended with him involuntarily committed. Now 14 years sober, Stevo's latest book, subtitled What I've Learned from a Lifetime of Terrible Decisions, details how he has survived what he calls his whack-a-mole of addictions and self-abuse.
Alcoholism is the only disease where when you treat it and recover from it, you become a better version of yourself than you were before.
Wow. Please welcome the author of the new book, A Hard Kick in the Nuts, What I've Learned from a Lifetime of Terrible Decisions, the one and only Stevo! Very good. You got it. You still got it. You still got it. That's a first for me. No one's ever skateboarded into an interview that I've ever done.
You never had Tony Hawk here?
I did, and he didn't skate. You're skating. Listen, you have a glow.
Well, thank you.
How are you feeling?
I feel fantastic.
You do?
Sure.
The relief of this book being out?
It's been a whirlwind, grueling press tour.
Yeah.
But hey, look at me, I'm on the Tamron Hall show.
Oh my God, come on. And I'm with you. Listen, I'm around the same age. I grew up my formative years watching you and you guys build this huge brand out of just being wild. You know, I remember opening the paper one day and someone saying, you know, that you lost your teeth, and there was just this every day. Oh, don't.
These guys.
We're laughing now, but when I saw the picture in the article, I thought, he's going to die. I mean, there were times I thought, the next time I read about Stevo, it will be his obituary. And you were thinking the same thing.
Oh, 100%. And in retrospect, I think I cost a lot of people a lot of money on their celebrity death pool bets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you knew they were betting you weren't going to make it to this age.
I would have bet the same, if we're honest, yeah. Yeah, I never expected to live to see the age of 30.
Why was that?
It had a lot to do with the extent to which I was in the grips of addiction and alcoholism. And I think a component of that is that I somehow felt defective. You know, there was just a discomfort in my own skin, which is a common trait of alcoholism. So I just felt like there was something wrong with me. Things weren't going to work out.
So you're on these films, box office and all of that, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I don't deserve this success, or it's gonna have like the anvil is waiting to drop on me, literally?
There's some of that.
Really? Was that linked to your childhood? Because I know that there was a history of alcohol abuse with your father.
Right. Not my father. My mother
Your
was.
mother.
My mom's side of the family was so alcoholic. Every leaf on the tree. I mean, and like I'm the first member of my mom's side of the family to achieve long-term sobriety.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've been sober now. Was it
14 years
14?
now. Yeah, is that crazy? Yeah.
You actually you wrote about an epiphany you had when you, quote, finally got sober. And it says, there I was in my mid-30s, very much alive, and realized that if the average life expectancy stats were accurate, I probably wasn't even halfway through my journey. While most people would greet this realization as a profound gift, I guess I'm not most people. I freaked the bleep out. So
Yeah.
now you're sober, you're
Right.
getting your life together, and then the guy you thought was going to die at 30 is looking at 45, looking at 50, and you're
Right.
thinking, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah. It was a perfect storm of sheer terror because everything that I had done to achieve success was precarious at best. And when I got sober, I had effectively burned every bridge in my career. And I didn't know if being sober, I could continue to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. So my earnings potential, if it had not already fallen off a cliff, was teetering on the edge of one. I had never been really saving much for anything because I didn't expect to live. So I wasn't particularly concerned with savvy business decisions or investments or anything. I was just kind of woo. And now here I am thinking, oh my God, half my savings are gone. My earnings potential might have just completely evaporated into thin air. And I might only be halfway through my life.
Wow. Coming up, how that didn't force you into the darkness again, because many people would panic, as you said, freak out, and end up abusing again. How Stevo kept his sobriety, and he takes us inside his efforts to help his dear friend and former Jackass co-star, Bam Margera, with his current well-publicized addiction. More with Stevo after the break. Welcome back, Fam Fam. Stunt performer and stand-up comedian Stevo went from a crippling drug addiction that had him knocking, as he says, on death's door to where he is now, 48 and sober. I know something that you've done that is so important to your fans. It was a year ago. We saw your co-star, Bam Margera, who was fired from the movie, reportedly over issues of substance abuse. Since then, Bam completed a year of drug and alcohol treatment, but there was a report, some headlines, he had erratic behavior. I don't want to go through all of his pain and all of the descriptions there, but it was clear and is clear he was struggling. You, on your podcast, Wild Ride, you had a chance to get real with your friend in a way that let me play it. You can take a look at it.
I hope that you can understand that at a certain point, like specifically over the last few years, that it stopped being fun, it stopped being funny, it stopped being cool, it stopped being something that we want to give you a high five for, because we've been watching you self-destruct. I will say specifically Tremaine and Knoxville saved my life by enforcing some consequences. Like if somebody doesn't...
Well, they made me want to jump off the tallest building on the planet.
So you talked about Johnny Knoxville. That's the Knoxville you're referring to, and Jack
Right.
Tremaine. You talk about it in the book. You say one of the most significant acts of friendship in your entire life is what you experienced. When you're there with Bam and you're thinking about what these two guys did for you, what was that like?
Well, specifically what Knoxville and Tremaine did was organize the intervention, which ultimately saved my life, and I've been clean and sober ever since. I really liken what they did for me by showing up and enforcing this boundary. I consider it the same thing that they did for Bam. Bam's never had any consequences for his behaviors, and I think that's largely how the situation with Bam has progressed as far as it has, because he's just always been.
That's interesting you say that, because Stevo, people always talk about you got to hit rock bottom. I had a intervention, if you will, for a dear friend of mine who, thank God, is doing very well several years later, but interventions don't always work out.
Correct.
What is someone's bottom? That depends on the person, and it's defined in many ways. For you, trying to help Bam, it seems like you can't pull from your own experience. His is his.
For sure. And you can't impart the willingness to do the work that it takes to stay sober, you know.
So having been on both sides, been the person who has the addiction and being the person who's trying to stage an intervention that will save someone's life that you care about, there are a lot of folks who are going through that. We know that statistically. Right now, people in this audience, people watching, have someone they're trying to save.
Right.
Is there a, I don't want to say a quick answer to it, but what is your advice from this learned and unique experience for you?
Well, you can't make somebody want to get better. And so in most cases, when you have a loved one who's struggling, you have to focus on yourself. It goes against every fiber of your being, if you're a mother, to kick your child out of the house and send them out into the street. But if you baby them, you bury them. Oh. Because if you shield somebody from the consequences of their behavior, they're never going to find that bottom. It's going to keep digging. Mm. And that's the thing. It's so counterintuitive to really...
some people think I'm abandoning them and they're going to make it worse. I'm sure Bam feels like they've all turned their backs on me. They fired me from the movie.
Right.
But in reality, from your point of view,
yep.
That's how the person hits that bottom to get back up?
Like I said in the book, the intervention that Knoxville and Tremaine staged was the most significant act of friendship and love ever. And I view them firing Bam from the movie as every bit the same thing.
Wow.
Tough love.